Hey, if you'd be so kind as to pass these down on this side and take a few of these, pass these down on this side. I just made 20 copies, so I might have to share some there. We have come a long way on the road of the theology of the body. It's been exciting. I've enjoyed your company. I don't know if you've enjoyed mine, but I have enjoyed getting to know you guys. Had a great time this past Friday at the bonfire. Thanks to everybody who helped organize it. The people who brought s'mores and the dogs and the raging 20-foot towering bonfire that was promised was not disappointing. Well, we had a good time anyway. I learned how to make some s'mores for the first time in my life, so that was good. Everybody's got an opinion about how to make s'mores, so that was great. Good to spend some time with you and see you kind of outside of being drunk and cigars. Just kidding. It's good. It's good to spend time with you. Enjoyed it very much. Hey, welcome. Wanted to let's see, find my notes here. Trying to find my notes. Wanted to begin with a riddle that maybe some of you have heard before, and see if anyone can figure out this riddle. I think I got this from the Lord of the Rings. You remember there's a scene where who was Frodo's uncle? Bilbo. Bilbo goes down and has this kind of duel of wits with Gollum. When he first finds the ring, in order to keep the ring, they trade riddles back and forth. And they have to try to guess the riddle, and whoever doesn't guess the riddle, they lose, and the other guy gets the ring. So here is one of the riddles that they had, and it goes like this. What has 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 4 legs in the evening? Does anybody know? Well, obviously you guys don't read very much. You need to read the Lord of the Rings. That's exactly right. Did everybody hear that? It's a human being, right? A person, as a baby in the morning of their life, walks on 4 legs, right? When you grow up, you walk around on 2 legs in the noon of your life, in the prime of your life. And then at the end of your life, you walk on 3 legs, right? You get a cane. And so in the evening, or the evening of your life, you walk on 3 legs. So it's a person. That was the riddle. You never would have gotten the ring, guys, against Gollum. He would have eaten you guys. But that was one of the riddles. And I wanted to share that with you as a kind of little context for the talk this evening, which is really to describe life stages. And we go through these stages of life, of walking on 4 legs. You guys, at one point, walked on 4 legs. You crawled around on your parents' kitchen floor. And then you walk now on 2 legs. Right? And then someday, you will get old and you will walk on 3 legs. And I just use that as a symbol of the stages of life that we're going to walk through, pun intended, and how the body helps us move through those stages. So ultimately, these stages are going to teach us not only how to walk and how the body helps us move through the stages, but ultimately the body pushes us out of the cave. Okay? And it's our body that triggers the move from one stage to the next. That's what John Paul II has been saying. It's our body that teaches us. And if we pay attention to our bodies will teach us a lot. Even a lot more than just what we've been covering on human sexuality and intimacy and marriage and celibacy. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And this is, he says as much, if you look at letter D there, at the end of the theology of the body. He says, look guys, I'm just scratching the surface. One must immediately observe, in fact, that the term theology of the body goes far beyond the content of reflections presented here. So he's talking about that thick book, the theology of the body and human intimacy and all that. These reflections do not include many problems belonging with regard to their object to the theology of the body. In other words, there's so many more things the body can teach us. For example, the problem of suffering and death. You know, many of you have wrestled with that. Maybe your own parents, grandparents, friends have suffered. What is the meaning of that? It's the body that is suffering. That's cancer or some debilitating disease, or you were in some car wreck. What does it mean that now the body can't walk anymore? The body can teach us in something like, you know, is euthanasia okay? You know, the body can teach us that there is dignity even when there isn't necessarily great usefulness of the body. That needs to be explored. That needs to be examined. And the Pope is confident that the body itself will be able to teach us the truth and land us squarely with what we know by revelation, what we know by the Bible and the authority of the church. Like, for example, euthanasia is wrong. You can't deliberately take the life of a person even if they don't seem to have any usefulness. And he's confident that the body is going to lead us to that same conclusion that we find in the Bible and that we find in the authoritative teaching of the church. So it's exciting stuff. But what I want to do is talk about how the body leads us through life, through these life stages, walking on 4 legs and then 2 legs and finally on 3 legs. We'll start in the middle stage, okay? The stage when we're walking on 2 legs, as I'm calling it. And by the way, feel free to ask questions because in this one is very, very different from the talks that I've given already. We're not going to talk a lot about human intimacy and marriage and all these things. This is going to be a very different kind of talk. Really kind of stepping away from what we've been talking about as the theology of the body in terms of sex and marriage and celibacy and all that, and seeing it a whole different application, okay, of the theology of the body. So you might actually like this talk. Right? This period, I'm saying, you know, this is just kind of a guess, okay? I'm no psychologist or anything. But this period of walking on 2 legs, when you're at the noon time of your life, is roughly from 10 to 20. Okay? This period of starting to walk on 2 legs. And you know what's going on during that time, right? You're a what? You're a teenager. And you're enjoying teenage angst. Right? And your parents are especially enjoying teenage angst. Maybe some of you are still going through teenage angst. So we'll see if any of this resonates with you. And what are some of the things that teenagers complain about all the time? Well, everything is wrong. I don't like anything. I don't like anybody. And the world is against me. You know? And it's very important to listen to that. Where's that coming from? I think there's something profound there. Something very, very important to know about ourselves and to know about the people who are going through this stage. This is a transition from being 4-legged to being 2-legged. That transition is painful and it's confusing and you can hurt other people and you can be hurt yourself as you go through this process, okay, of going from the 4-legged to the 2-legged stage, the transition. All right, the new stage is triggered by explosive growth in the body. Right? You know, I remember, you know, we have all these little snapshots of childhood, and one of the things that I remember is as a little kid looking at my dad's arms, you know, his forearm, and thinking, God, this guy's hairy. And I remember looking at my own arms and thinking, well, I'm nice and smooth, you know, I'm good. You know, and just thinking what a contrast that was. I don't know if you guys have any memories, you probably don't want to share them, but of noticing how different adults are from little kids. I mean, there's these little snapshots we probably all have of saying, wow, you know, look at that hair, man. Of course, now I like to point it out to little kids. Someday you're going to have hair just like this. You know, it's terrible. But something is happening to the body. Something's happening to our bodies. You know, the body is changing. It's evolving. Not just hair, your muscles. You know, you're able to do things now you never do before as an 8-year-old, as a 9-year-old. I mean, you blow them out of the water. That's why I like to play football against our 3rd graders. Because I feel like Joe Montana out there compared to those guys, right? You know, we have our sexual impulses. We notice that now. We didn't notice that before. You know, obviously, hormones are raging and coursing through our bodies. It's not a bad thing. You just have to understand it. What's happening? You know, there's almost a sense of being impervious to pain. Have you noticed how little kids, even teenagers, they'll just jump off of anything. They'll play football, they'll do anything, because they're just like, you can hit them and they can get hurt, and then they just bounce back up and keep going. There's this kind of feeling of being limitless, like Superman. And this is all authentic. Your body really feels this way. And some of you may still be very much in that kind of feeling of like being Superman. The body can do anything and everything, and the mind knows everything. So the mind is following right along with the Superman feeling of the body. Here's a great quotation from Mark Twain. When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to be around the old man. But when I got to the age of 21, I was astonished how much he had learned in 7 years. Now, who really learned something? It was the kid, right? Dad hadn't changed. But notice how the kid is looking at the world. I know everything, and you guys are morons. Right? I mean, there is that feeling. And this is a transition. The person is growing exponentially, physically and mentally. I'll give you share a little experience from my own graduating from high school. When I was 17, 18 years old, graduating from high school, I sincerely thought, this is the most arrogant thought I've ever had in my life. I sincerely thought, what could they possibly teach me in college? It's all going to be rehash. Because I know it all. I have learned everything. I know it sounds ridiculous to say it right now, but I remember thinking, what could they possibly tell me that I haven't already learned? Not just because I went to the greatest high school in the world, Catholic High, but everybody thinks that way, don't they? What could they possibly tell me? I know everything. And that's a very symptomatic feeling of that age. All of these things, these experiences are not the real issue. At a deeper level, we are searching for a new identity, and that's what I want to suggest to you. That all of this, these experiences that I just described, if you get down to the root of it, you're looking for a new identity, triggered by these physiological changes. The old paradigm. What is the paradigm? The worldview. My universe. The old paradigm no longer is good enough to explain the world in which I live and explain who I am. It doesn't cut it anymore. This is not a satisfactory explanation, because look at what I can do now that I couldn't do as an 8-year-old. The identity that my parents handed me on a silver platter as an 8-year-old, I cannot accept anymore. Because I am not that 8-year-old. So who am I? There's a profound search for your own identity going on in this second stage, when you're moving from the four-legged stage to the two-legged stage. Our previous identity was handed to us from our parents, our name, rank, and serial number. They told you everything about who you are. Your name, what food you'll eat, what church you'll go to, what friends you'll have, what you'll watch on TV, what you won't watch on TV, where you can play, and everything else. And until about the age of 12, you were like, great, give me more. That's the paradigm. That's your world. Your parents are the architects of that universe. And you were happy as a lark because you were in the four-legged stage and everything was hunky-dory. But now, your body pushed you out of that stage. As you see hair and muscles and hormones, intelligence grow exponentially. That is no longer a satisfactory answer to the question, who am I? You have to discover a new identity. Okay? So my physical growth and differentiation makes me wonder if I'm not different in every other way, not just in what my parents have told me. This new identity must be one that I find on my own, if it is truly to be my own and not handed to me by my parents. And that's, my friends, the reason why there's so much conflict between teenagers and their moms and dads. Moms and dads are all worried, and you guys could probably relate to this because it wasn't very long ago when you went through this yourselves, are all asking you, well, this is what you need to do, and this is what you don't need to do, and this is what you like, and this is what you don't like. And you're like, Mom and Dad, tell it to the hand. You know? You don't want to listen to them. And it's specifically them. It's not that you don't want to listen to anybody. Well, you want to listen to them. You just don't want to listen to them. Why don't you want to listen to them? Because they are the architects of the 8-year-old. That world they created. And you were happy with it for a while, but that's no longer a satisfactory world in which to live. So they are the only people you will not listen to, is your parents. Okay? And realize that it's not because you have some vendetta against your parents. It's not because they're the worst parents in the world. Okay? They're fantastic parents. But you cannot listen to them because they're the ones who are going to drag you back into the old paradigm. And your body will not let you go back. Because you're saying, look at this magnificent specimen of humanity. This is no 8-year-old. This is not the old man. This is a new man. And I need a new identity to match my new body. And I can't really even trust mom and dad to tell me because they seem like they keep dragging me back to the old paradigm. So I need to find some people who are going to help me create a new identity for myself. So these are the steps we go through. And by the way, this dynamic I'm about to describe happens at every stage. Okay, at every stage, moving from the 4-legged to the 2-legged to the 3-legged, and even from before you get to the 4-legged stage, which I'll describe to you in just a second. So go through several steps. First, I have to reject all that I have been told about myself. Or at least to question it. In other words, everything that mom and dad have told me about myself, I've got to say, not so sure about that. In fact, I don't think so. I've got to wash the slate clean in order to create and write a new identity. I have to have a tabula rasa, a clean slate. Okay? And that means I have to question everything. I question everything, including my beliefs about God and religion. And that's one of the reasons why teenagers don't want to go to church. And not necessarily that they don't want to go to church, they just don't want to go to church where? At mom and dad's church. Right? It's not that they just don't want to go to church. They do go to church. Whose church do they go to? Their friend's church. Because maybe they will help me create a new identity. And I'm not going to mom and dad's church because that's the old identity. That's the 8-year-old's church. I need the church of the magnificent human specimen that I have become. I'm beginning to walk on 2 legs. I'm in a new stage of my life. Who am I? That is the question that we are asking. Who am I? And who's going to help me answer that question? Who can I trust to help me answer that question? So that's the second stage. Start piecing together, what do I want to be? Who am I going to be? The new me. And notice, you start doing, and this is very normal, by the way. I don't mean to sound critical or anything. This is very normal. But knowing what you're going through helps you kind of endure it, and also not to leave so much collateral damage on the side, right? Don't need to get so upset at mom and dad. They're not trying to sabotage your life, okay? They love you, but they don't know the theology of the body that Father John has explained, right? So they don't understand. So you're just going through a life stage, and then of course, Junior's not going to listen to me. Junior sees me as the architect of the old paradigm. He needs other people in his life. She needs other people in her life to create a new identity, a new paradigm. Okay? And so you start getting into all kinds of stuff, sports and hobbies and churches, and you start looking for mentors. You start looking for people that you admire, people you trust, to help me discover who I am. Who am I? A new identity. Okay? And you might just think about that for just a moment. You know, who are the people that you allow into your life to help create that new kind of understanding of yourself? There are certain people you trust. And that's a powerful role that someone can have in your life. Maybe professors, maybe friends, you know, people that you have known, older people that you have known. And you don't just trust anybody, because they're going to help you create the new you. Then the third step is a choice. I will choose those who help me put the pieces of my identity in place. And again, just to repeat there, I don't trust my parents. In the end, they discover, you know, there's the funny thing. A lot of times, we may end up being exactly the same kind of person that my mom and dad told me I was. But here's the difference. I get there on my own steam. I figured it out on my own, not just because mom and dad told me I'm that way. First, I rejected it all, or at least I questioned it. And then I pieced it together on my own, and presto whammo, I came to the exact same conclusion that my mom and dad had, but with this difference. I figured it out on my own. I got here by myself, and with the help of people that I trust. Okay? So again, let me make it very clear that this is not some kind of war of worlds between you and your parents, although it can certainly feel that way. Okay? No one is out to undermine your life or to make you miserable. Right? But there's a lot of misunderstanding. Teenagers certainly don't have the language to be able to say what they're going through. And parents don't have the language to understand why are they, acting this way. They don't really know what's happening. But if they did, I think we could avoid a lot of unnecessary heartache. So the choice of college, hobbies, sports, major, career, spouse, where to live, all of this has to be made on your own. You have to make the choice yourself. And by the way, of course, I'm not advocating, the next point there, letter R, just letting kids do whatever they want. Kids need limits and structure and discipline. And I think personally what teenagers need to be taught these days more than anything is that actions have consequences. A lot of times we're raising a world of people who think that I can do whatever I want and there are no consequences of it. Credit cards are a perfect example of living in a world with no consequences. I can run this sucker up as much as I want. I still only pay $20 a year, a month. Right? Wrong! You are under a mountain of debt. But you think you're not. Because all you have to do is write a check for $20 a month. A world in which actions apparently don't have consequences. One of the things we need to teach our young people these days, among many things. But you should be aware of the underlying psychosocial paradigm shift inside. And so parents don't need to take it personally. And by the way, none of you guys are parents, right? You don't have any kids. But here's the fatal flaw of parenting teenagers. I figured it out, guys. Here is the fatal flaw. So you can tell your parents to get over it, all right? Here's the fatal flaw. Because I tell them, oh, you know what you need to do, Mom and Dad, because they're sitting there and they got Junior in my office and I'm counseling like, this is great. And of course, Junior's just rolling his eyes at everything, Mom and Dad are saying. And of course, all the Mom and Dad want me to do is to say, they're right, and Junior needs to get with the program. Right? And of course, that's not going to work because that's what they've been saying the whole time. And I just become one more, what? Architect of the 8-year-old. Right? Dragging him back to the old paradigm. But here's what parents need to know. And that is, I tell them, look, what you need to do is you need to tell Junior is that life is a world in which actions have consequences, so you need to have rules in your house. And when they break the rules, there are consequences for that. And, hey, welcome. Good to have you. Good to see you. And so what you need to do is tell them that actions have consequences. And Mom and Dad are like, oh, no problem, Father John. We got it. We got rules. We got them on the refrigerator. They can see it. We even got the consequences. I'm like, that's great. Here's what else you need to do. Not worry about them telling you what wonderful parents you are. Just enforce the consequences for the actions. Because what do Mom and Dad really want? They don't want you to just come home at 10 o'clock. They want you to come up to them and give them a big hug. And say, you're the best mom. You're the greatest dad. Right? They want to hear that. And that's why they're sitting in my office. Not because they can't figure out that Junior needs to learn consequences, actions have consequences, but because they want what? What do they want? They want the 8-year-old back. Isn't that right? They want their 8-year-old back. Because that's what little 8-year-olds do. Oh, Mom, you're the best. Dad, you're the greatest dad in the universe. And that's why Mom and Dad make the fatal mistake of not knowing how to raise their teenage kids. Because they expect them to do what a 7-year-old does, not what a 16-year-old does. See, they haven't understood that Johnny's not on 4 legs anymore. He's trying to learn how to walk on 2 legs. And you need to let go of the old paradigm and realize that he is moving on into a new paradigm. And that's painful, folks. That's painful for your mom and dad. And let me tell you, all of you who are going to get married are going to want exactly the same thing when you have your own kids. And you remember I told you this today, okay? Get over it. All right? Don't be expecting your 15-year-old to come up to you and say, you're the greatest mom. All right? You're the world's greatest dad. All right? It ain't going to happen.
I think that's why the donors keep having.
That's exactly what it is. They want more 8-year-olds, man. I'm telling you, you don't realize it, but that's what they want. And I tell them, you'll get it. You'll get it after they turn 40. You're not going to get it when they're 14, but when they're 40, and they've had their own kids, and they've fallen on their own faces, they've had to deal with their own teenagers, they'll come back to you and say, you really are the greatest dad. You really are the greatest mom. But don't expect that out of your 14-year-old or out of your 18-year-old. And that's what parents' greatest flaw is. Because they're still back in the old paradigm. And it's not so easy. Okay? So I don't need to rag on them too much. But that is what they need to kind of just not worry about. It'll come, but much later. All right. A similar dynamic, and again, you'll see this exact same pattern of behavior happen in every shift. So the same dynamics occurred when you went from being no legs to having 4 legs. In other words, when you were born. Just think about what happened when you were born. Your identity in the womb, what, you don't remember? Your identity in the womb, okay, when you were still inside your mom's womb, in her tummy, it was inseparable from your mother. Think about that. And of course, with all due respect to the pro-life movement, some of the things I might say might sound a little non-pro-life, but of course I don't mean it in that way. But just think about this for a moment. You really did not have an identity separate from your mom. And that's why, by the way, there is so much confusion in the pro-choice or the pro-abortion movement. They say you are part of the mother. And there is a sense in which that is true, identity-wise. Think about it. Did you even have a name? No, Mom and Dad, every night they're kind of wrestling. Well, maybe it'll be a boy, maybe it'll be a girl, maybe we'll name him Johnny, maybe we'll name him Susie. You don't even have a name. You don't even have an identity. In fact, you are physically connected to your mother's body. Okay, yet don't hear anything non-pro-life. Okay, don't freak out. All right? I'm just trying to help you understand a psychological thing, and it's also triggered through your body. But the separation was necessary, right? After 9 months or so, that you cannot continue in this relationship. You cannot continue in this paradigm. And what is it that pushes you out of the old paradigm? The body. You see? The body teaches. The theology of the body. The body will not let you stay in the old paradigm. It will push you out of the womb because you get too big. Okay? And it is not good that you stay there. Just like it ain't good for your parents to have an 8-year-old forever. It's not good. Much as mom wants another baby, it ain't good. Okay? Have to grow. Body teaches us. And what is it ultimately teaching us? We need to get out of here. We need to get out of the cave. That's what the body's really teaching us. So all of this kind of dragging back against the grain of the body is really against the grain of God's plan. This ain't our home, ultimately. Our home is outside of this cave. And the body is teaching us, nice, it's while we're here, but let's move on. So the body grows. It moves us through these paradigms. Okay. The separation is necessary, obviously, for the mother and for the child. It is physiologically the bodily growth and development that triggers the paradigm shift, that pushes you out of the womb. And by the way, obviously this is very painful, right? A mother giving birth to a child is an extremely painful, excruciating ordeal. And there's a lot of crying. And there's a lot of misunderstanding. Why is this happening? Right? And the baby sure as heck doesn't know what's going on. But it's coming out wailing. The same thing in our teenage years. A lot of crying. A lot of confusion. A lot of people don't know what the heck is going on. See, the same pattern is happening in every shift. And it will happen as we look at the other shifts as well. A lot of confusion, a lot of pain, a lot of anguish, a lot of misunderstanding. But a new identity is being born every time. Okay. But this change is necessary for you to become who you are meant to be, your real self. Just like to go from 4 legs and being an 8-year-old to being a teenager to being a 2-legged adult is necessary for you to discover who you are. That's not the end of the road. It's just one more stage. Okay? All right. The third paradigm shift happens at the 3-legged stage. This is usually experienced between the ages of 40 and 50, and also known as the beloved midlife crisis. Okay? Take it from a man who knows. Again, the body triggers the change. And notice what's happening. It's the body, it's the body, it's the body. Fantastic, man. Joe Paul was a genius. And we are just scratching the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we haven't even begun to explore how the body can teach us so much more. I can't tell you how excited I am to delve into how work, the theology of the body can teach us about what work is all about. I'm starting to put together an outline on exactly that. Why do we work? We use our bodies to work. I think there's a lot to be understood about work. Looking through the prism or through the lens of the body, it teaches a lot. Human suffering, a whole area in which we need to explore that, especially all of you who may be in the medical field, in healthcare. You are dealing with the suffering body all the time. What do you do with that? Is all that you do just to say, well, stop suffering? Is that all that? Well, what if you can't stop the suffering? And what if when the body dies and you can't stop the death? You know, doctors have a hard time with that because they are trained to keep the body alive and to keep the body healthy. So they have to come to some deep down terms with death. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just means you have to understand what the body is trying to teach you about suffering and death. So, moving into the third shift, it's actually the fourth shift, but the body triggers the change. And what is happening is that we start noticing with the body that we can't do things like we used to with impunity. You know what that means, impunity? That means without punishment. In other words, you will be punished for the stupid things you do now. If you try to stay awake all night at the Frassati bonfire and don't sleep and then try to run 20 miles, you will pay. That's punity. Punitive. Impunity means to do things without punishment. That's where you used to be. The Superman, the 18-year-old, 25-year-old. You could do things with impunity, meaning you did not suffer the consequences. Your body was teaching you that. In a way it was necessary. But now, you will suffer. I suffer, believe me, after that 20-mile run. At root, this is what's really going on, though. This is the beauty. This is the teaching of the body. At root, somewhere deep down, a person confronts the reality of death. That's what's really happening. And my aching knees after that run, when I try to get out of bed in the morning and I could barely move, something deep inside clicked and told me, Johnny boy, you're going to die. Kid you not? You don't feel it. Y'all are laughing because you ain't there yet, but someday you will be there. And if you think about it, of course there's no like, you know, light from the sky kind of thing, like, oh, you're going to die. Okay? But there is something. There's something deep inside the body. And it will tell you, something has changed. You are not the man you once were. You're going to die. That is the reality. The body's trying to teach you something. If you're smart, you will learn what the body has to teach you. Okay? Just like in the womb, just like as a teenager, your body is saying, let's move on. Next step. Okay? And I know sometimes we may not use these words, but that is exactly what is going on. There is a understanding deep down. You can't even verbalize it. Many men and women cannot verbalize it, but that's exactly what the reality is. You're going to die. Okay? Now, letter E there. Men, I suspect women too, have two options. They can either deny that fact, they can say, the heck I am going to die. Or they can grow old gracefully. Okay? Now, some men try to deny death by trying to act like they were younger. They run marathons. Right? What else do they do? They buy sports cars. You see these guys? What are they doing? They're trying to deny the fact, I'm getting older. I'm taking one step closer to the grave with every minute that ticks. And so they're trying to deny it, and they're going to say, no, I'm still 20-something. Just watch. See what I can do. You're denying the fact you're going to die, buddy. You're going to die. That's a good thing. Because we're not supposed to be here. See? The only reason you're like, oh, guys, I'm so sad I'm going to die, is because you think you're supposed to be here forever. You're not supposed to be here forever. Okay? That is normal. In that sense that we got to get out of this cave. And the body is going to teach you that. The theology of the body. Be a good student. Pay attention to the master. Okay? And what else do guys do? Buy motorcycles, or even more destructive behavior, like getting divorced from their wives and marrying whom? Younger women. Why? Because I'm still 20-something. See who I got. What are they really doing? They're denying something they heard deep inside, saying, you're going to die. No, I'm not. Watch. Let me prove it to you. Prove it to myself. On the other hand, you can age gracefully. That's the option. It doesn't have to be that way. Not everybody has to do this. You can accept that death is a part of life and discover the blessings of a new identity as an elder. And that's what has to happen. The old paradigm, you gotta get rid of it. Who you were from 20 to 40 ain't gonna work anymore. Or you can try to force it to work. And that's destructive. But your body is not going to let you do it. Right? You can grow old gracefully. And you know, by the way, think about it, folks. I mean, there is a multi-bazillion-dollar industry for people who want to deny death. You know, these age-defying creams, Botox. What the heck is that all about? That's for all those people out there trying to say, I'm not gonna die. I'm not opposed to all that stuff, you know, that's fine. You know, you can look nice. But if something deep down is really about, if that is really about trying to not move forward in life, not accepting what your body is teaching you, you are missing out. And it could be seriously devastating for you. Seriously devastating. Because you are missing out on something beautiful. The next stage. Time to move into the three-legged stage. You cannot stay at the two-legged stage forever. I would recommend, by the way, a couple of books, and I just brought them with me, so if you haven't read them already or heard of them. Healthy Aging. This guy's kind of like the guru on how to grow old gracefully. Just fantastic book. I really enjoyed reading it. Andrew Weil, he's an MD. People kind of know him, and he's very well known. He tries to teach something called condensed morbidity. Anybody know what that means? Condensed morbidity. Morbidity comes from the word morbid, or death. Mortis, death. Okay, and condensed means what? Like condensed milk, like concentrated, right? Shortened death. That's what he believes in. And that's actually a really cool idea. because he sees lots of people in their older years have a prolonged death. Right? Like ill health, cancer, all kinds of illnesses, and just dragging on and on and on and on and on and on for years and years and years. And he wants to condense that period so you enjoy good health, and then you like fall off a cliff and die. Okay? Well, not exactly, but so you die, not this long dragged out suffering. And so he recommends all kinds of healthy eating habits and anti-inflammatories, etc., etc., etc. But that's not really the reason I mentioned the book to you. The reason I mentioned the book to you is because he says there are certain things about being older that you cannot enjoy when you are younger. What is he doing? He's inviting us into the new paradigm. Leave behind the womb. Come out into this world. Figure out a new identity for yourself. The old identity does not work anymore. And he uses some beautiful examples, some great qualities and some old inanimate things help us to see the value of older persons. So he's going to take some of these things that you guys have been eating actually, and show us how when they get older, they're better than when they were younger. And so he's saying the same thing about people. When you get older, certain older people enjoy things and have a quality of life that younger people can't have. So I'm just going to read through this real quick, letter I there. We often describe young people as green and lacking in depth or complexity of character. No offense, guys. Maybe experience cannot make a bad person good, but it can make a good person great. And that's what he's talking about. Life experiences kind of make our lives richer, our personalities more complex, a greater flavor in the human being that you don't have when you're young. Let's see. Experience cannot be gained except while undergoing the same processes that cause aspects of aging we think of as destructive, such as sagging of the skin and stiffening of the arteries. The benefits and costs of aging cannot be separated. You got to take both together, the good with the bad. Please remember this truth. Amen. If you resist aging, you may deny yourself its benefits. Growing old should increase, not decrease, the value of human life. Just as with bourbon. Everybody order up a shot. It has the potential to smooth our roughness, add agreeable qualities, and improve character. So he goes through a variety of things. Cheese, wine, bourbon, violins. You know, the younger stuff like that is kind of weak, stale, man, boring, compared to a much older version of it. Much richer, more enjoyable, more complex, greater flavor. So he says the same with human beings. And that's the invitation. Don't go back. Come forward. That's what the body teaches us as well. Listen to how he describes the value of old trees. The appearance of old trees is often testimony to their past struggles. Many of the oldest trees are not conventionally beautiful, right? They are scarred, ragged, twisted, and gnarled, and we love them for it, because their imperfections only reinforce the fact of their endurance. No one would want to see these Methuselahs of the woods undergo cosmetic surgery or receive some sort of Botox for trees to make them smoother and straighter, right? It's the gnarledness that makes them so appealing. They have something now that younger trees are missing. Any such treatment would lessen their gravity and its effect on visitors. Again, the fundamental paradigm shift in identity is experienced, and you must discover a new identity. The same thing happened for teenagers. You can't go back to the 8-year-old. You have to move forward with a new identity. Same thing happened in the womb. You can't stay in there. You have to come out. But it is painful. And there is a temptation to want to stay there. It's like mom and dad wish you would stay the 8-year-old and not grow up. And so it's difficult to move forward. Another excellent book I would recommend is this one, Halftime by Bob Buford. I don't know how many of you guys have read it. Outstanding, outstanding book. Just, he says, and this, by the way, I think is maybe the best book to kind of help you make it through, survive the midlife crisis. To kind of come out of it knowing that there's something to move forward to, not just trying to go back. And there's some skills, there's some tools you need to be able to survive that transition. This is like a, epidural for the mom having the baby, basically. There is a way to make this a little smoother, folks. And reading books like this can help you survive the transition. Okay? Just a couple of snapshots from this. He says, oh, and by the way, the subtitle of the book is Moving from Success to Significance. You know, so much of our lives before 40, 40 to 50, whatever, is spent just trying to succeed, be somebody, make a name for ourselves. That's significant. Make a name for myself. Not just a name that my mom and dad gave me, but a new name, a new identity. Make a name for myself, be somebody. But then you move on beyond that, after success, to significance. And part of that significance is, what am I going to leave behind? What's my legacy? Because I'm not going to stay here forever. See, that's exactly the question you have to answer. I'm going to die. So what? So what am I going to do about it? And you can either move forward and think about the legacy you're going to leave behind, live a life of significance, not just racking up more money, not just racking up more promotions. That's the old paradigm. Or you can have a life of significance. And again, for some of you, this may be like, hard to imagine. But I hope that seeing the pattern in the other paradigm shifts can help you see what's coming down the road and help you prepare for it. So he says this: for the second half of life to be better than the first, you must make the choice to step out of the safety of living on autopilot. And you can see that, right? You can't go back. You must wrestle with who you are, why you believe what you profess to believe about your life, and what you do to provide meaning and structure to your daily activities and relationship. And by the way, this is really a great thing he says in there. He does not shy away from saying, you got to pray. If you want to move successfully into the next stage of life, you better spend some quality time in prayer, buddy. Because God is there also to help you understand your identity. So he says, if you cannot afford to spend time in solitude with God, that finding your one thing requires, you are not ready to find it. But notice what pushed you into the third-legged stage, your body. The fact that your bones creak. The fact that your hair is falling out. The fact that, as Johnny Depp said, gravity is going to get us all. Don't think about that too much. Gravity is going to get us all. Right? Botox. Trying to fight gravity. Right? Here's the conclusion. Stepping outside of the cave. Your body's going to push you out of this cave, folks. We stepped into the cave when we were conceived. We kind of became a shadow at that point. And have passed through 4 distinct stages of development. Who knows, there may be multiple stages, but I've tried to just identify a few of the key ones. Each corresponding to a distinct development of the body. Just by summary. The first was the 9 months in the womb, where our identity was indistinguishable from our mom's. We had no name. We were physically part of our mom's body. No disrespect or misunderstanding for the pro-life. Secondly, the 10 years from birth to 10, we were basically kind of on 4 legs. With an identity handed to us on a silver platter, we were given a name, and we loved it, and it worked great for that time. Then, for the next 20 years, from 20 to 40, we're kind of on 2 legs, making our own identity, making a name for ourselves. He's a self-made man. All right? Then, for the next 50 years, from 40 to death, discovering God's name for us. Moving to significance, not just success in life. What do we learn from these paradigm shifts is triggered by the evolution and development of the body. We learned that the current stage we are in is not the last one. That's what the body's trying to teach us. More than just moving from one stage to the next, it's that we're moving, we're going to keep moving. The no stage is the final stage in this cave. Okay, so don't get comfortable wherever you are. Don't settle in. We learned that nothing inside the cave, money, sex, power, etc., any shadow will ultimately tell us who we are or satisfy us. The paradigm shift leads us to the previous paradigm no longer works. From shadow to reality, right? We're always getting closer to the exit. Hopefully you're beginning to recognize everything, even yourself, even your body, as a kind of shadow. But it's teaching you, it's pointing you to something else. It's moving you out of the cave. Only something, really someone, outside the cave will tell us who we truly are. You know, at every shift we discovered a little bit more. Okay, I'm not just a little baby in the womb. Okay, I'm not just a little 8-year-old. So I'm developing, I'm growing in my self-understanding. It's my body that's teaching me. Right? And ultimately, God is the only one who can tell us who we are. This identity search doesn't end at any time in this life. Blaise Pascal, great French philosopher, theologian, said there is a God-shaped vacuum inside each person that only God can fill and nothing else. And of course, you're probably familiar with that quotation from St. Augustine. O Lord, our hearts are restless until they rest in Thee. Only in God will we discover our true identity, our real self. But here's the point. It is our bodies that triggers that restlessness and that search until death. When what happens at death? Our bodies are going to push us out of this cave into heaven. Hopefully. Okay, guys, so that is just a quick look at some life stages. Any questions or thoughts about that? Obviously, very different kind of reflections than what we've been getting. Does any of that make sense to you? Is that stuff you have experienced? Is that any qualifications? Things you would say, well, I would not emphasize that much, or this or that or something? Any? It's exactly perfect, huh? Or any questions for the question box?
What about between 10 and 20?
It's empty, praise God. All right. Pass some cake down, man.
I kind of have a question.
Oh, what a surprise. No, no, just kidding.
At least you didn't write it down, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know. I have the back. We get it. Okay.
Take another drink.
The stages that you go through, like the one where you're the teenager.
Yeah.
I was a good girl, okay? I listened to my parents. I was okay with what they told me.
Wonderful.
And so does that...
So it's still coming for you then.
Okay. That's what I'm worried about. That's
Like a train wreck.
Like, am I missing something if I listen to them and didn't really question them?
No, that's a great point. In fact, I even meant to make that qualification. Not everybody has to go through that. But there needs to be some moment of separation.
Oh, yeah.
Most people in our culture experience it in a very violent, in a very anguished and conflictual sort of way between parents and kids. That's what most people experience. It doesn't have to be that way. You're right. It doesn't have to be that way. But there does need to be a kind of question. There does need, and it'll happen a lot of times in college, as well as you're being exposed to all kinds of people and ideas and books and history and all kinds of stuff that you never had at home. And rightfully so, because that wasn't the time for it. But so there does need to be a kind of question. Sometimes it happens very, traumatically. But praise God if it didn't happen that way.
I mean, it happened small, like, I guess mildly, but nowhere near the
Yes,
way you
the
were.
way I was describing it, yeah. Yeah. But wouldn't you say that that's the typical experience?
Yeah.
Praise God that yours was,
Yeah. I think I saw my sister doing it, and that's why I kind of stayed away from it.
Learn from her body.
Yeah.
I'll learn from your body. Well, that's what we're doing, isn't it? When you read a book, when you learn from somebody else's experiences in their body, you're like, got that. Not going to make that mistake. Right? Not buying the sports car, whatever. You're learning from other people's experience, older siblings. You can learn from them. Not make the same mistakes. But it's hard. It's hard, isn't it? Because when you're going through it, you're like, oh, no. I'm the only one this has ever happened to. It's never been like this before. This is unique in all the universe, And so we don't feel, because it makes us feel special. No one has ever suffered like me. That kind of thing. So, it's an ego trip. But it's not true. It is normal. And how wise of our Heavenly Father to give us a body that not just to, enjoy and praise Him with and pray and love one another with, but to learn from. You can learn from your body. It could be your teacher. And a tough teacher it is too, man. The body is relentless in teaching us. And we can either be good students or we just have to keep learning the same lesson over and over and over again. So it's great. And how genius, John Paul II to tap that root of theology in the body. But you can, I guess in addition to just sharing about these life stages, is to kind of give you an example of how much room there is to grow in the theology of the body. I mean, it can be a life project to try to discover, all the different ways that the body can teach us. Like I said, I've been looking at different things that, like another area in which the body can teach us a lot is in understanding the Blessed Virgin Mary, devotion to Mary. I think, in fact, some of this, I have the book, I haven't read it yet, but someone had written Mary, or the Blessed Virgin Mary, and the theology of the body. Because, she is unique among all human beings. She has a body unlike any other human being. Except Jesus, of course, but he's, fully God and fully man. But as far as human beings go, you and me, she is radically different. She has a body like no body has. Because she was immaculately conceived. At no moment did sin touch her body. What are the consequences of that? There are some radical consequences of that. And to explore that, and then to learn something about what should we be striving for in our own bodies. I think there's a whole world there of profitable reflection and prayer. To think about what was her life like if sin had never touched her body. So at any rate, just to say that that's also part of what I wanted to share with you today, was that so much more can be explored in the theology of the body than just human intimacy and marriage and all these things that John Paul II wrote the book on. So great. Yeah. Any thoughts or comments? Then any announcements for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to mention that I was trying to think of what would be the most helpful thing as the last talk. And I had said that maybe I should just do like a quick straw poll here. The last talk we were going to have next Sunday, and it was going to be on the talk. In other words, if you were mom or dad and you need to tell Johnny or Susie the birds and the bees, how do you do it? And this is the talk you probably didn't get, right? That you should have got from mom and dad, but you didn't. So you had to kind of figure it out on your own. A lot of trial and error. And I was stuck with it, okay? I thought I escaped by being a priest, that I'd never had to give the talk, right? I didn't have my own kids. What do I have to worry about? But my brother was out of town, and so, he asked me to do it. And so, unfortunately, I was doing all this reading on the theology of the body, and so I just kind of laid it out for him. But it gave me the basic outline on how a parent would share this in the proper context. Human sexuality in a very positive light. And so I could give that to you next Sunday if you'd like. Or there was something else I was going to share with you. And I can't remember. Discerning a vocation. Maybe that would be more relevant to you and where you are, since you guys don't know what you're doing with your lives. How do you figure it out? The body can be very helpful in trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? Vocationally. God put you here to do something specific in life, and the sooner you figure out, the happier you're going to be. Otherwise, you'll always be a square peg trying to get shoved into a round hole. Okay? So you need to figure out what God wants you to do. And there are certain tricks of the trade here. The body can be our teacher. So vocational discernment, maybe that would be more relevant and helpful to you. So, what do you think? We've only got one talk left, so make it count for you guys.
Both are important.
And I tell you what, so that there isn't any peer pressure, why don't we write it down on this, and we'll have a quick vote. Okay, that way you don't feel like, oh, everybody's voting for this, I gotta vote for that. You can vote for whatever you want. Okay, so option A is the birds and the bees. Okay, you can just write birds and the bees on there. Or You could say the second one will be vocations.
Wonder, how about
Okay,
option
yes.
C?
No, there ain't no options. You ain't giving 2 more talks. All right, I'm done, man.
No,
All right,
no.
no.
You cannot highlight those in one talk.
I could. We'll be here all night. You're gonna have to have a lot more beer for 2 talks, man. All right, this is not a 1 beer talk.
I have cake now.
Okay, okay. We can try. I mean, if you want to do an all-nighter, I can try it. But let's see if there's an overwhelming consensus one way or the other. You guys need a pen? Pen. So the first option is birds and the bees. Second option is vocations. All right. No third option, Brent. All right. Here, let's we'll put it in the box. Let's put it in the box. Let's make it official. The ballot box. Everybody need a pen? Everybody need a pen? Good. Everybody got pens? All right.
Are you sure you want to vote?
All right.
No, thank you.
All right. You can only vote once. All right. This ain't Florida, man.
No, I'm
These guys. Oh, it is Florida! Oh man, we got hanging chads. What the heck?
It's okay.
So it'll be on Sunday, the weekend.
Oh, that's the other thing. We need to announce that it's next Sunday, not Monday, okay? So. Oh, Jordan.
Yeah.
Everybody vote? All right, somebody tally these votes. Okay, 1 for birds and the bees. 1 for, this is like the election of a pope, you know? 1 for His Eminence vocations. All right. Second for vocation, another one for vocations. Let's see, yes, sorry. 2 for 3 for vocations. Birds and the bees. Vocations. Birds and the bees. The letter A, adultery. Okay, I don't know. What is this?
That's B.
It's B. He said A's.
Oh, that's vocations. Vocations.
No, that's not. That's the bill.
Oh, that's birds and bees.
A's, birds, and bees.
Yeah, she got it. She got it. B. Okay, vocations.
You just put that on smile.
Charlie, stop laughing. This is not
Vocations. Wherever it goes. All right. Vocations. Uh-oh. Pull it away. B.
Oh.
Birds and the bees.
Hey.
Finally. Vocations. Birds and the bees. Birds and the bees. Birds and the bees. Make it come back. Birds and the bees, make it come back. Vocations.
Oh no.
Not going down easy. Not going down with a fight. Vocations.
Oh.
Vocations. Vocations.
I think they meant vacation. I think vacation.
Yeah, I think
A vacation from the theology of the body. B. Vocations. Oh my gosh. Vocations.
I still want first.
Both. Count. You lost your vote, man.
Oh.
Burned it. Vocations. Oh, man. It was a runaway. It was a runaway. Well, we can try to do both. But definitely vocations. Obviously, you know, it's a very.
It was birds of the bees.
But yeah, obviously vocations is very helpful. A lot of you guys are trying to figure out what the heck you're supposed to be doing. And, so there are some ways to try to understand it, wrap your mind and heart around it. Of course, the main thing is just pray, you know. Only one person knows for sure what your vocation is, so ask him. You know, ask the Lord what you're supposed to do, and He'll tell you. And if he hasn't told you, it's because you don't even know yet, you know, or you're not listening. So it's not his fault, in other words. All right? It's not his fault. But yeah, that sounds good. I'd be happy to talk about vocations. I think that would be very relevant and very helpful to you too. When will that be, Stephanie?
Sunday, November 20th, here, 6:30 if you want to eat, 7 o'clock, same as usual. Book club is going to be at 4 o'clock at our Sega's just up the street, same day. And on the 18th, we're meeting at Patrick Murray's house for a potluck Thanksgiving dinner at 7 o'clock. And I think I put his address in the email. But that's Friday. It's this Friday. Patrick's. That's it.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
And
Colin.
yeah, you're welcome. And I think, Stephanie, if I think there's copies of these outlines if they're helpful to you at all. Are they online, or if someone needed one? Brant was asking me earlier for a copy of an older outline.
I scanned all of them, so I mean I can get everybody copies of
Needs
older
copies.
handouts, or in this handout I'll scan it and send it out to everybody via email.
You know, and I would encourage you, if you want to kind of explore this more, if you do book clubs and you want to read some more on the theology of the body, I mean, you're welcome to tackle the masterpiece itself, but you know, wear your pads when you do. You'll get tackled back. But there are some other books that are a lot easier to digest than the theology of the body itself. One is that Christopher West book, Theology of the Body for Beginners. But I would also recommend Mary Healy's book, Men and Women Are From Eden. That's kind of a play on words from that other book that I referred. Men are from Mars, women are from Eden, from Venus, wherever they're from. I don't know where women are from, man. Anybody know where they're from? So this is trying to say that our origin is in the book of Genesis, you know, in Eden. And to really understand who we are, we have to understand what Adam and Eve's experience was like. So we tried to kind of get into that a little bit, making without shame and all that. And so she spells that out. It's called Men and Women Are From Eden. And her last name is spelled H-E-A-L-Y, Mary Healy. And a very thin book, only about 80 some odd pages. So, and it's got, you know, the chapters are only like 6 pages long, very short, condensed. And she's got study questions at the end of the chapters. So if you're looking for a book that might help, you know, kind of get you talking at the end of a chapter or 2 chapters, that might be a good one for you. And so she just takes the theology of the body and tries to break it down for you. That's great. So, all right. Good. All right. Welcome. Good night. Thanks, guys.
You better volunteer.
No, I'm interested to know.